giving hope, giving light, bringing peace to our world. And this is the real movement.
It may not be safe to just have one big joint account, except if it's another account somewhere. It might be an account in another country where you're not really domiciled, but you had opportunity to open that account in that other country. It can be a joint account because it's not your everyday spending account. Maybe in that country your kids go to school or you go there often for vacation and you had opportunity to open the account. It can be a joint account because you don't want to deal with separate accounts because you know you're not really resident there, you're not always going to be spending or whatever. Or we are trying to buy a property there, so it can be a joint account. That's the way I look at it. But in the place where you reside, where you work, where you really earn your money, the place where is home for you, the country, the city, where you are building your base, I think that each person should have their own account. If there is trust, you might want to make at some point in time each other to be signatory to each other's account, like secondaries. Not that you both have to sign, but that if you're not there, or if something happens to you, automatically the other person can. So, but then, because that's what we have a third account, which is a joint account. That joint account is the least funded. And even when you have it, let both have, access to it. Because the problem with having just one big joint account is that one person will have the upper hand. Who will do the online transfers? Can you both have online transfer control tokens over? So if one person wants to draw, they have to defer to the other person. So what do you want it for? It's not. So we use that, our so-called joint account, for, it's like a savings as well. It's like another savings. And you can decide what you want to use it for. Okay, are we building a house? Some want to use it for school fees because, okay, you want to say, let's put saving up for next time in that, and then so we know it's for things that are for both of us. So we both I had my account as a single, he had his account as a single when we got married. After that, yes, we both opened accounts, but it was much later that we opened the joint account. But what made us to open what I call a joint account is that on that account, it has both our names on it. Because sometimes someone will write a check in both names. And it depends on the country where if a check is written in both your names, there's some countries where as long as the check is paid into one person's account, it goes through. But there's some places where it can only go into the account as it is that had, so there were issues around that, and we just thought, then let's open an account in both our names. And I like that because it came to a point that I saw that, okay, now that joint account, the so-called joint account, we use it deliberately, like want to give someone a birthday gift, someone that's a common friend, sometimes I could write a check as a birthday gift to somebody that is known to both of us. And in the card, yes, it's from both of us, but the check came from me or the check comes from him. And the card or the letter still carries both our names. But we find that some people don't see it that way, that if he writes them a check, it's also me, but he wrote it, and they think it's his initiative. Sometimes it might be my initiative that we should give this person something, and he writes it. But the person says thank you. It's not like I'm waiting for thank you, but someone will just see it, and it's almost like, okay, still waiting for your gift. And I'm thinking like, how can this person still be waiting for my gift when I'm aware that my husband wrote a check or put cash in an envelope? This person doesn't even know that it was even my idea. Maybe he said, okay, give this person 10. And I'm like, why don't we make it 20? And he said, okay, fine. But because it comes from his own checkbook that carries his name, this person thinks it was his own idea. Sometimes it's painful, So that's when our joint account kicks in, because we know the personalities of the people we deal with, family or friends or whatever. So sometimes we feel, for this person, is this person's big 50 or 70? Let's do it from the joint account. That way, the check the person receives carries our name, and it helps some people to see us jointly when we want them to see us jointly. Right. Sometimes I do money from my account when I want the person to see that I'm empowered as a woman. Right. Yes, though, I'm putting his name. Recently, I think, was it over Christmas or when I was teasing my children, and yes, I got the gifts for them. And yes, he was aware, but I was responsible for doing that. And so I told my daughter, and I was like, okay, lovely. They was, oh, thank you, mommy, thank you. I said, yeah. I added his name. Then my daughter said, mommy, that's not fair. I said, no, it's from both of us. So stuff like that, So you know the psychology of the people you are dealing with. You know when it's better, if you want it to look like it's a common front, then you can now take from that joint account, deliberate. So I think you have both worlds when each person has their own. So I can say I have 2 accounts. I have 1.5 accounts. You can say you also have 1 account. It just gives flexibility. Someone like me, I'm a giver. I'm not a spendthrift, but I'm a giver. And if I'm talking with someone and I sense the compassion to give something on the spur of the moment, it will be I won't be able to fulfill my call to have to wait to call my husband, or he has to wait to call me. I'm in the studio for 4 hours, then it's 4 hours before the person gets what they should get because he needs my clearance. It just would take away from the spontaneity and the ability to obey the Holy Spirit on the moment. And it could be a life or death situation for that person at that point in time, So, and when we have our personal accounts, we can even bail each other out and say, okay, I've already done this for you. I saw a letter came in, you are owing this bill, and I just quickly did it for you. Right. I'll get it back later. And, so it gives flexibility. Right. And it's been an area of controversy for many years. People usually ask that question, and then after they want to know, okay, what is your own model? I don't impose my model, but it has to do with trust levels. Right. When we get married, we don't trust immediately. We grow in the trust, even though we are one, but we are still growing into oneness. So some people are like, okay, let me do it this way because I'm still getting to know this person. Do what works for you with the proper esteem. Right. Do what works for you. Because let me tell you, especially women, when you have money of your own, you're empowered. But don't be selfish with it. That's the thing. I know women who have bought land of their own and put their husband's name. So they put the name of the husband. Or tell the husband, I saw this investment, I'm going to do it. And I'm thinking to do it in the name of our kids so that they too, we just have something also for them that is not just cash, like you talked about the account, the money. Right. To have something like a property in their name. And so that takes care of things like wills. You have a will, do you not have a will? If something is in the name of the child, even if it's not in the will, it's, so with the permission or with the informing the other person and saying, okay, sure, it's your money, whatever you want to do with it, and stuff like that. And for the rainy day, when something happens, you just say, that land that I'll say, say, oh, which land? But I told you that. Okay, let's sell it and use it and put it. It usually always comes in handy, and such men are, if they're not threatened, at the end of the day, they're happy that, okay, that land that you said you were, okay, let's liquidate it. And, so it helps when both parties are on the same page and they are not tight-fisted and selfish towards one another. But, of course, they are frugal. They're applying all the principles. But I think it can be really happy and very jolly, when you have money of your own that you can surprise the family. Because if it's just one big joint account or one small joint, nobody has their own discretionary small savings. I don't know. Okay, fine. If you say you want to have one big joint account, it can be a current account or current and savings. But can each person still have their savings? Because if not, how do you buy gifts for each other? If I need your permission to take money from the joint account to buy you a birthday gift, that's you buying it for yourself. You understand? Yes. How do you surprise each other? How do you give to each other when it's from the same? Everything is coming from.
Be tempted to borrow and then return, and it will be like, did I send you?
So, but honestly, do what works for you so that you don't end. I don't like it when couples fight over money. I mean, we have arguments, we have our days of not, but by the grace of God, money has not been, has not really been. It could be on other things, ideas. You see this, take this route, let's not take. But on money, on material things, it has not. But I know that there are couples that is the major, major thing. So
sometimes also, one of the reasons why people are loggerheads is when one partner is doing well than the other. I have a joint account. So somebody is funding it the more. And then the other person is spending the more. He may not even be spending, but for some reason, it's been coming to mind to address that area. Sometimes for women, nowadays you see a lot of women flourishing and the husbands are struggling. It's an area that, people talk to me a lot about.
Yes.
My encouragement for such category of women is just be there. It's a different thing if the man is a spendthrift. It's always spending, takes a little grace.
Things of no value.
I really want you to talk about that. But when the man is trying, is making an attempt,
It's slow for him.
but it's just the path of the righteous shines brighter. Sometime, someday, he's going to break through. So just hold on and support him.
Support.
But I would like you to talk about when,
It's really so.
when
When the man is not
pulling his weight. So to
when
say.
a man is spending money like on women, flirting all over the place and spending money that is not his, spending money that is from the joint account and it's only that joint account you have, it's not wise to have to only have that joint account. You have to then have an account of your own because your sweat and your labor is being taken elsewhere to things that are not godly values or family values. Spending more money on women, drinking or stuff like that, and the children's school fees have not been paid. So you go to the joint account and then you wonder, time for fees. But you know that by virtue of what you as the woman has put in there, this next term's fees should be sitting comfortably. And you go there, alas, there's nothing. Yet you funded.
Right.
You track where it went. And it's like, what? You will be angry. There will be trouble. Of course, as a woman, you hold your peace, but you say, what can I learn from this? It's like I've given too much room, too much trust, or what? You may not be able to change his habits. Of course, you are praying for him, you're talking to him to change his habits of flirting or his habits of being a spendthrift over things that are of no value. You may not be able to change him in a hurry or change him at all. You're still praying, waiting for the day his eyes will open and say, I've been terrible. But in the meantime, you've got to have a private, separate account. So you may still want to fund the joint account a bit or fund his account because every now and then you say, borrow me some money there. I don't have money. Meanwhile, I'll pay you back. Meanwhile, you say, the last one you've not paid me back. And I saw that you could have spent less, but you spent it on things that are, anyway, because he's your spouse still, you give him, fine. But make sure that you're also saving money to pay your children's school fees or to do things and to still have the savings that you talked about,
Right.
Kids or no kids, so that you have some sanity, so that you're still able to love him, but you have your own, maybe you've registered a business of your own, or you have a good job, but you are also saving. It will make you less frustrated.
Right.
It will make you less frustrated. It will make you have integrity with people, with your children's school and all of that, because they will still see you as one. You can't go and say, I saved up the money, but my husband is so irresponsible. He spent everything. They will count you together. It is equal to your family is irresponsible.
Right.
But you, like the woman, Abigail, went and did the right thing. Saved the whole family, saved the situation, and God dealt with Nabal on his own. She didn't have to deal with him.
Right.
God dealt with him.
Right.
At the appointed time, he just said, Mister, leave the sin. Your time on earth is over. You have caused enough trouble. Right. So even if he was not taken out of the sin, I think women like that will find favor because it was actually the stewards in the house that came to tell her that, David and his men, they need food, they need an oga. That is big boss. Your husband, the daddy in the house said, no, we cannot give him any food. We cannot help. And we know that this man is the king in the making. He's the next king. He's not yet showing, but he has been, may this not bring a curse on our household. And because they knew she was a good woman. She saves, she works hard. She gives them even when the man does not pay their salary, she gives them things. They give her that information. And she was able to go and take from her account, not the joint account, because he will know who touched this joint account. She was able to do that, to even save his own head too.
Right.
from whatever curse would have been coming. But if she didn't have any discretionary money like that, she would have been part of the problem and suffered the entire consequences. So sometimes woman, sometimes man, it could be the man that is a frugal one and the woman is just so wayward. God can use your prudency and the doing right and the wisdom to save the whole family, pending the time the other person wakes up and does the right thing, And God can use that to even sanctify the family, because it says that the unbelieving spouse is sanctified by the believing one. So even in other areas, it may not be money. While you are waiting for this person to really give his life to Christ or to really make that change, you that you are righteous, you've received Christ, you know better. Hold on. Support when you can. We don't say just put your whole life in the person's hand. You've given your life to Christ already. So you don't have to dump your life on this person with abandonment when the person is not leading you anywhere. You do it with caution, so that when the person comes back to his senses, he realizes that, wow, he had treated you and the family terribly. But then we'll appreciate that you still held on somehow. How did you even cope with my ways? Right. Then you will enjoy, because he will try to make it up. Sometimes it's tough, but we've got to do the needful. Right. You've got to probably maybe double up your efforts in all the savings and everything, because the other person is not doing it. Right. So all these tips, they apply to you, as a woman. I know in an environment, and these days, or should I say in recent times, it's become very, I have one or two women to come around and say, look, I'm looking like the breadwinner, of the house. And it's tough, because a woman also wants to be pampered and loved on and not become the man, But such women, I pray that God will, comfort your heart, strengthen your heart, and bless you even more and answer your prayers over your spouse, over your husband, who is the head of the home. But still be thankful that, you know what, thank God I even have earning capacity. Right. Thank God I have a job. Right. Thank God that I'm favored. Right. Okay? And it's all going to be good at the end of the day. Right. Yeah. Now, we're still on wisdom for finances. We've been talking about family finances, getting out of debt, and the like, personal finances. And we've learned a lot. Ownership, we should take charge of our finances. We should be frugal. We should fund our needs, not just things that are nice. We shouldn't compare ourselves with others, try to impress people, thereby getting into debt. So much wisdom, has come forth from the broadcast, at this time. And we're going to go further. I'll take this question. Shola, this question says, how do I make wise investment decisions?
That's a good one. Investment is one of the ways by which we spend our money. But the good thing is that they are not on consumable items. Okay. When you spend money on investments, it's leaving you, but at the end of the day, it's still going to come back, but with profit. Good. Remember that at the beginning I mentioned that your money must yield. Yeah. So this is where investment comes in. A lot of times, your temperaments, I'll call them investment temperaments, will determine how and where you spend your money on. Wow. Some have got a moderate temperament when it comes to investments. They just want to keep it safe. Of course, there are a lot of investments that I'm going to talk about. They're not risk takers. They just want to, just let me do it. They're moderately, they have moderate temperaments. Some are conservative. Just put my money in a savings account where I would get 1 to 3%. Just leave it there. I'm not doing any stocks. I'm not doing any bonds. But some are very aggressive. You see them buying this, selling stocks, buying stocks. They know what it means when the market is bearish, when it is bullish. They are not professionals, but they just know what it is. And then our attitude to risk would also determine the kind of investments we go into. Some are risk averse, some are risk neutral. They don't mind. but some are risk-loving.
Yeah.
There are individuals like that. They just do the risky things. When it comes to investments, especially, you putting down a lot of money, your temperament and your attitude to risk would come to play and would determine the kind of investments. Of course, there are different types of investments. You have the short-term investments, such as savings. You just keep your money in the bank. It's low risk, but you get...
Not high yield.
Yes, not high yield. You just get some beat, from time to time. You have fixed deposits. Has a higher percentage. It depends on the part of the country. I know in Nigeria, right now, you get about 1 to 3% on savings. Fixed deposit, 5 to 9. It fluctuates really, sometimes, And then, so those are something we call treasury bills. Those, you invest your money, and then over time, you get your yield and the interest on top of it. But of course, there are other longer-term investments. There are the stocks, shares, you buy into companies. If a company collapses, that's it. But more often than not, companies thrive when they are managed well. A lot of companies doing well, and you're proud to be a shareholder, really. And then there are bonds, there are debentures, different types of investments.
That's, a lot of people may not
Understand the bonds.
Bonds,
Bonds are like debts. Unlike shares shares and stocks, where you're an owner. When you put your money down, you become a co-owner. And then there are people managing. But for debts, you just give them, and for bonds, debentures, you just give them your money for a particular period of time. They make whatever profit they want to make on it, and then you get your investments and the interest on it. That's it. You're not an owner. You're not anything. Another type of long-term investment would be real estate. A couple of people, they buy houses, property, and they trade. By reason and by virtue of experience, they know their onions. They've learned the ropes, and they're able to just, they keep investing. That's another type of long-term investment. You have what they call, I think, the real estate. You invest in a real estate company, and then they trade with your money, and all you get is your money back. So you necessarily do not have the property. Then you have the mutual funds. You give your money to asset managers. So they are the ones that invest on your behalf into bonds, into stocks, whatever they want to do with it. But the most important thing is that they yield profits. So investment...
Will it be an agreed profit?
No, it depends on the performance of the
high
market.
Trust, then.
Well, some are risky, some are...
That means, you must trust the asset managers.
Yes, that's why you shouldn't just put your money anywhere. And then for investment, one of the things we should consider, be careful and beware of get-rich-quick schemes. I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago, a friend of mine introduced me to, when you give them something, you get ×3 of it after 3 weeks. I was a chartered accountant, and it sounded very tempting. Who doesn't want 3 ×3 of whatever you... Investment would usually take time to mature. So when somebody comes to you to say, just put 1 million, in 1 month you get 3 million, you don't even need to think about it, except it's coming from an expert. And you need to even still do your own work and research. Anyway, my friend got his own interest. He got his money and ×3. It was on my own set that the company collapsed. And they went away with the money. Wow. So sometimes investments, you have to beware of get-rich-quick schemes. Be knowledgeable about where you're putting your money. If you're using asset managers, make sure they're renowned, research properly. And then it's good you also determine, like I said earlier, your risk temperament, your risk attitude, and then your investment temperaments. If you're not aggressive, don't put your money into, things that would give you, just make you give you apprehensive all the time. You're like, what is happening?
Wow, this is so interesting. In addition to what you've said, investing in one of the ways to invest also, could it be also starting a business of your own? Not necessarily when you buy shares and stocks, of course, investing in another person's business, but a way to not just leave your money in savings, but to tie it up in the business. Maybe you have a startup, you start up a business of your own. I think that will also work with temperament, because are you really ripe to start that business? Are you an entrepreneur? Have you researched what it takes to be an entrepreneur? And are you passionate about your product? Because if not, the business may not grow. But I think it's one of the avenues to yield, to invest.
Right. Yes. I encourage people starting up businesses because it's usually an additional source of income. You know, whilst you are still on your 8 to 5 job, sometimes you just need to identify your passion, your strength, what makes you happy. Sometimes you do something so well. Some people are so versatile, and you just do some things, and people are like, why don't you just make money out of it? You know, some things are just services. Some are products. Some are capital intensive. Now, when we want to look at starting up a business from an investment point of view, you must realize that sometimes it's not exactly easy, and the profit may not be forthcoming in the immediate. So, if you want to see it as an investment, yes, eventually it will yield money. It's not a consumable. Remember I said investment is an expense, but not on consumable items. So you have to, be patient, be persistent, until at the end of the day, you'll be happy you did. That is if you invest in the right business. A lot of people that we see around, they'll tell you they started small, they were committed, they kept plowing back profit, they weren't eating their profit. So it could be an investment, but you must be ready to go all the way.
All the way.
Yes.
All the way. Wow, that's a very good one. Various ways to make wise investments. Now, this question says, do you feel it is easier to manage our finances these days with the tools that are available to us?
Yes. It's a very, very good time. For one, there are many online resources, and there are books. I would also like to say that if you would want to be a good manager of your finances, you have to read. Somebody called me like 2 weeks ago. Oh, I have a deadline to invest in I have to make payment for an investment by close of business. And I'm like, when did you get to know about it? They just told me. They just sent it, and they said if I don't pay now, that's it. I'm going to miss my slot. You haven't done your feasibility study. You don't even know what the business is about. So most times it doesn't work. You have to be knowledgeable about personal finance.